I never imagined a simple slap would lead to an unbelievable twist that changed my life forever. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. My breath quickened. The world around me blurred. It was Tuesday, a day like any other. Until it wasn't. It happened in the cafeteria, surrounded by the sharp scent of fries and the chatter of students. I sat there, heart pounding, staring at Caleb. We were friends, maybe something more, but that moment, everything shifted. His smile faded as he turned to Emily, his so-called best friend. A whispered comment slipped into the air, sharp as a knife. I saw her hand rise, quick and furious. The sound was deafening. A crack echoed through the room. Her palm connected with Caleb's cheek, sending shockwaves of surprise through the crowd. Gasps filled the space. My stomach sank. I wanted to scream. The look in Caleb's eyes shattered me. Betrayed. Confused. His head turned slightly, catching my gaze. I reached out, hoping to bridge the rift. But something inside me trembled. It was more than just friendship now. I felt a clammy rush of fear. Why had she done it? The room swirled with whispered accusations, raised eyebrows, and disbelief. Emily's eyes darted around, seeking approval or condemnation. Her cheeks were flushed, a wild mix of rage and something darker. The heat of the moment crackled. I could taste the tension, bitter and electrifying. I wanted to run, to hide from the storm that had just erupted. Rumors danced on lips sharper than swords. It's about the party. He chose her over you. Each phrase echoed in my chest, tightening my breath. But no one knew the real reason. A secret was hidden beneath layers of betrayal, thicker than the awkward silence that fell around us. It felt like a trap, a sudden plunge into icy water. My heart raced. Outside, trees stood still, unaware of our chaos. Inside, laughter shattered as Caleb stumbled back, disbelief etched in every feature. A part of me wanted to comfort him, to wipe that look off his face. But the other part of me was paralyzed, suspended in this moment of raw emotion. What was I supposed to do? Love, loyalty, or self-preservation? I could hear the faint ticking of the clock. Each tick echoed my own heartbeats, reminding me of the choice before me. A slap had ignited a wildfire amongst our tight-knit group, and I found myself standing on the precipice. Then, as chaos dwindled into stunned silence, Caleb's eyes narrowed. He turned to me. In that moment, clarity pierced the confusion. You knew about this, didn't you? Everything froze. A weight sank in my chest. My answer hung in the air, heavy and convoluted. I didn't know if I should lie or come clean. The truth threatened to splinter between us, a fragile thread ready to snap. And there it was, a fissure in our relationship, deeper than I ever anticipated. Just then, a shrill voice cut through the tension. Guys? Is everything okay? I glanced around, confusion washing over the gathered crowd. Eyes flickered with anticipation, excitement, countless interpretations. Caleb looked between Emily and me, uncertainty etched into his features. My gut churned. What was about to unravel? This moment, this slap, wasn't just drama. It was the beginning of something far bigger. I could feel it in every trembling nerve. It was only the start. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. I felt my heart race, a wild drum in the stillness that had filled the cafeteria. The air was thick with a peculiar mixture of dread and anticipation, everyone waiting for anything to shatter the spell of disbelief. What do you mean? I finally managed to reply, my voice barely above a whisper. It felt like my own words were slicing through the tension, cutting deeper than I intended. Caleb's gaze bore into me, searching for the truth I was so reluctant to reveal. He took a step forward, the air between us crackling with unsaid words. Did you know about Emily and the party? The party. The infamous party where everything had begun spiraling out of control. Where Emily had cornered me, insisting it was better if I kept my distance from Caleb. She had thrust a fragile truth into my palms, one I should have clutched tightly, a secret she had expected me to carry alone. I didn't know it would end up like this, I stammered, not daring to meet his gaze anymore. No, not that. He snapped, frustration laced in his tone. Did you know she was going to slap me? Did you know she was going to make a fool out of me? Each accusation landed hard, a staccato of pain. I could feel the heat rising to my cheeks, overwhelmed by guilt. I turned to Emily, hoping for some sign of empathy, but her expression was a mask of triumph and shame all at once. She had precipitated this chaos, and now, here we stood, two friends embroiled in a battle neither of us had invited. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating, until a hesitant voice from the crowd broke through the tension. Sometimes, it's better to just move on. The words came from Lucy, a girl I barely knew, yet they resonated like a bell at dawn, evoking an odd sense of unity amongst the onlookers. Caleb turned towards her, the look of confusion morphing into a mixture of anger and vulnerability as he clamored for answers, for logic in this tornado of emotions. I watched the emotions flicker across his features like the wild flames of a campfire, fierce, destructive, and illuminating. Move on? He echoed incredulously. After all this you think I should just forget? With every syllable, I sensed the rift between us widening, enveloped in the fiery essence of betrayal and hurt. I felt helpless, an unwilling bystander in my own life, looking on as everything that mattered began to slip away. Then a glimmer of kindness illuminated the storm, the tiniest bit of light in an ocean of darkness. A student from the back of the room stood up, his eyes soft with compassion. Caleb, he began gently, you're not alone in this. A chorus of murmurs rose. We support you. You'll get through it. With those simple words, a ripple of solidarity spread across the room. Caleb's expression shifted, his hard mask faltering just slightly. Hope, however fleeting, glimmered like a firefly in the darkness. I yearned to reach out, to be the one to lead him back to that spark, yet the fear rooted me to my spot. As the commotion began to fade, the principal stepped in, her presence a commanding force that cut through the uncertainty. All right, everyone. Let's take a breather. You can all head to your next classes. Relief washed over the crowd, and yet panic gripped my heart. Would I have to face Caleb alone? The possibility filled me with dread. As students slid past, I found a brief moment to whisper, please, Caleb, just let me explain, but he was already turning away, fists clenched, pain simmering in the lines of his shoulders. Don't, he said, voice low but filled with resolve. And with that, he walked out, the door swinging shut behind him, leaving an echo that would reverberate in my mind long after the moment had passed. Once more, I was left in a blur, voices fading into the background as I tried to summon courage. And then, buried within the chaos, it struck me a cruel twist of fate lurked beneath the surface. If Caleb thought I'd betrayed him, how far from the truth were we really? Had I overlooked the darkness festering not just in Emily's heart, but in my own? Suddenly, my phone buzzed in my pocket, cutting through my thoughts. I pulled it out, jaw tightening as I read, you were right to keep quiet. There's more at stake than you realize. My breath caught in my throat as the weight of those words sunk in. A cryptic warning? A sign that the storm was far from over? My mind raced, heart quickening at the implications. What had I missed, and who else was involved in this web of deceit? The cafeteria buzzed around me, but all I could hear was the thrumming of my racing heart, and now, buried within my chest, a new wave of uncertainty wrapped around me like a shroud. This was only the beginning, and I was standing at the edge of a chasm, peering into darkness. How much deeper could this go? The days that followed the confrontation with Caleb felt like walking through a shadowy tunnel with no light at the end. Each passing moment was a reminder of the pain I had inadvertently caused. I found myself wrapped in guilt, unable to shake the weight of that one slap that had crumbled my world. At times, I would catch myself tracing the outline of my phone in my pocket, feeling the urgency of the cryptic message as if it were a live wire against my skin. Classes became a blur, my mind floated through the discussions of math and history like a wisp of smoke, never quite settling. I caught glances of Emily in the hall, and each time my stomach twisted in knots. She seemed untouched by the chaos she had woven, her smile bright and hollow. Anger bubbled underneath my skin, but I forced myself to breathe. This was not just about her, nor the mess she had created. It was ultimately about Caleb. All I could think about was how to reach him. If only I could explain, unravel the threads of misunderstanding before they pulled us both too far apart. I imagined rushing after him, grabbing his arm, shaking him back to clarity, but every time, voices in my head told me I'd only push him further away. Then, the changer came. A Friday afternoon, the sun was casting sleepy golden rays across the courtyard as I sat on a bench, lost in thought. Just as I doubted the universe's plan for me, a familiar face approached. It was Lucy, the girl who had spoken during the confrontation. "Hey," she greeted, her voice gentle but firm. "Mind if I join you?" I nodded, grateful for her presence. We exchanged small talk for a moment before she turned serious, her eyes reflecting an understanding beyond her years. "I saw what happened between you and Caleb. It's tough. I get it. Do you?" I challenged softly, a hint of defensiveness slipping out. "Not completely," she replied honestly, "but I've had my share of misunderstandings too. Sometimes, things get lost in translation." Lucy's words hung in the air, filling me with a sense of liberation. I connected with her in a way I hadn't anticipated. "I just want him to know. I didn't mean to hurt him. I never wanted any of this," I confessed, letting the vulnerability sink in. "You should talk to him. Clear the air. He needs to hear it from you," she encouraged, punctuating her point with a reassuring nod. "And if he doesn't believe you, at least you'll know you tried." As she spoke, a flicker of hope ignited in my chest. Maybe I could reach out in a way that wasn't fraught with the desperation that had carved my previous attempts. But just as I felt the flicker catch, it was snuffed by an unsettling thought. What if I reached out and he still rejected me? "Thanks, Lucy," I said, pushing the dark thoughts aside. "I think he'll try." With newfound determination, I decided to escape the confines of the school grounds and found myself wandering to the familiar park we used to visit as kids, Caleb, Emily, and me. It was peaceful there, an oasis far removed from the dread sweeping through the hallways. I could still see us running in the grass, laughter echoing against the trees. Upon arrival, I spotted a silhouette beneath the largest oak tree. The familiar build, the way he leaned against the rough bark told me it was Caleb. My heart slammed against my ribs as I hesitated at the edge of the park, powerless against the tide of memories pulling me back. "Caleb," I said softly, stepping closer, but he remained there, motionless, staring into the distance. "Can we talk?" He turned to face me, his eyes vacant, stormy clouds bubbling just beneath the surface. "What's left to say?" he asked, voice laced with exhaustion. "Everything. I didn't know about that night, but I want to explain. I need you to know that I never wanted to hurt you." He scoffed, the bitterness twisting his features. "You say that, but you stood by and let her make a fool out of me. Just like everyone else." Each word felt like knives cutting deeper. It was a slap of reality, and I struggled to find my footing. "I know. I know it sounds hollow, but I didn't choose this. I wish I could change things." And then, in a moment that shook me to my core, his expression flickered from betrayal to something almost resembling fragility. "Then why didn't you say something at the party?" It was my chance, my moment to reach him, but just as I opened my mouth to respond, my phone buzzed vehemently in my pocket. I fumbled, completely distracted from our conversation, my heart racing in tandem with my anxiety. My hands trembled as I took it out, eyes widening at the new message that lit up the screen: "You're running out of time." They know. My heart plummeted. Who were they? As I looked up at Caleb, the tension thickened the air. This message could change everything. I was teetering on a precipice, ready to let Caleb know I was still in his corner, but this new threat loomed over us, pulsing with urgency. I took a deep breath, my words dangling at the brink of revelation. "Caleb, wait, there's something else." But the words felt trapped, fighting against the impending dread boiling inside me. I needed to tell him, but what if it only drove him further away? The cost of this revelation felt monumental, and as I struggled to decide, I could feel the ground shifting beneath us, threatening to tear apart the very foundation of everything I had hoped to rebuild. And as I stood there, teetering between silence and clarity, the world felt more volatile than ever. The weight of the message pulsed in my hand like a heartbeat, relentless and consuming. Caleb stood across from me, his face clouded by emotions I couldn't quite decipher, and I knew this was my moment. The air thickened, the past hovered around us, and I felt more adrift than ever, who knows what. Caleb pressed, his voice rising, laced with desperation as if he could sense the storm brewing within me. Every instinct screamed for me to confide in him, to share the urgency thrumming in my veins, but fear wrapped its tendrils around my heart. "It's complicated," I said instinctively, the words slipping out like a defense mechanism. "Tell me." The simple command sent a shiver down my spine. His eyes bore into mine, searching, pleading for honesty. Before I could muster the courage, he pulled away, his body language shifting from confrontation to retreat. "You know what? Forget it. If you can't be honest with me, then I can't stand here doing this." "Caleb, wait." Panic gripped me as I watched him take a step back, uncertainty carving deeper lines into his face. I felt an overwhelming need to change the course of our conversation, to salvage whatever remained of our shattered connection. "You don't understand. I never meant to lie or mislead you. I was scared." "Scared of what? Of hurting me?" He laughed, but it was devoid of humor. "You already did. Do you think it's any easier hiding behind silence?" His words crashed against me like waves, and I felt the coolness of truth seep into the cracks of my heart. "No, please don't say that," I pleaded, my voice quiet yet desperate. "I want to help. But it's not just about us. There's something bigger here." Caleb paused, curiosity flickering in his eyes. "What do you mean?" I hesitated, the seconds ticking like minutes as I fought the instinct to keep the message hidden, to protect him and myself from whatever dark clouds loomed ahead. "There's someone watching us, Caleb." Someone who suddenly, the moment shattered when a voice echoed from nearby. "Caleb. There you are." Emily emerged from the trees, her carefree demeanor knocking the air right out of the confrontation. I glanced at Caleb, whose expression morphed from anger to confusion. Emily breezed past me, the embodiment of lightness acting as a storm cloud to my tempest. "We should get going. Everyone's waiting." She turned towards him, oblivious to the tension preserved in every breath I took. "No," Caleb said, gripping the bark of the tree tighter, as if grounding himself against the whirlwind and against her. "Not yet. Don't be like that. You're ruining the fun." She pouted, dismissing the heavy atmosphere between us without a second thought. As she sauntered closer, I felt small, insignificant in her presence despite the truth rapidly gnawing at my insides. "Caleb, please, this isn't the right time to leave," I urged, desperation edging my tone. "Maybe it is," he shot back at me, conflicted. "I don't know who to trust right now." Her words stung more than intended, like salt on a raw wound. I couldn't let this happen, not when the weight of my secret felt so close to the surface. I stepped forward, my heart racing as I mustered every ounce of courage. "Caleb, don't let her stop," he exploded, cutting through my plea with a wave of his hand. The abruptness silenced the air around us. His eyes shifted back to Emily, taking the veil of composure from his face. You don't get it. I can't keep doing this, being yanked back and forth between you and her. It's too much. His frustration bled into the silence, amalgamating with the weight of our situation. Emily, momentarily taken aback, blinked as though she were trying to process his outburst. Caleb, chill, she said, her tone flippant. But I could see the shadow of anxiety momentarily cross her features, like a crack in her confident facade. Seriously, leave me alone, Emily. This isn't your business. He turned fully to face me once more, searching my eyes for something he wasn't sure existed anymore. What's it going to take for us to be real again? My heart ached at his plea, but just as my lips parted to break the barrier between us, the buzz of the phone interrupted my thoughts again. My pulse quickened as I glanced down at the screen, the dread bubbles in my stomach flowing over. Don't ignore me, Emily pressed, but she was unaware of the greater threat lurking in the shadows. Caleb, I have to tell you. A crisp crack interrupted my words, elbowing its way into our fragile moment. A sound echoed through the park like shattering glass, and I turned to see a small group of students standing just out of sight, murmuring and pointing in our direction. Without thinking, my finger trembled over the message waiting on the screen, revealing the shocking urgency. Caleb, you don't know what's at stake. If I don't tell you now. In that moment, between his tangled emotions and Emily's unyielding presence, I could feel my world threatening to fracture again. I had to act, had to choose between confession and concealment, but the ambient noise of growing chaos from the other students pressed against my resolve. Caleb's eyes mirrored my fear, tinged with a depth of pain that seemed insurmountable, but as I stood there, caught in the crossfire of uncertainty and revelation, and the nagging feeling of being watched crept into my thoughts. I could either step forward into truth or let the fear hold me back, and with every heartbeat, the clock ticked down, threatening to unravel everything I had hoped to rebuild with him. And just beyond our desperate clutches, a shadow flitted across the trees, dark and ominous, reminding me that sometimes the simplest decisions are layered with the most profound consequences. Caleb's eyes darkened as the sound of whispers grew louder, punctuating the air with a sense of urgency. I could see the immediate instinct to retreat forming on his face, but I couldn't afford another barrier between us, especially not now. Caleb, please, just listen to me. I need you to look past Emily, past the crowd. Right now, it's just you and me. His brows furrowed, caught between the protective urge to shield himself from this turbulence and the flicker of hope that perhaps I could still be trusted. My heart raced, each beat echoing a silent prayer that the chaotic scenery around us would recede long enough for us to find clarity. You need to tell me what you meant, he replied, his voice steady but laced with tension. The intensity between us held the balanced weight of unspoken words hanging in the air, pregnant with the raw vulnerability we both needed to embrace. A momentary wrestle with my own dread danced silently in my mind while I tried to catch a hold of the tides of anxiety threatening to pull me under. Everything I wanted to tell him tumbled into an incoherent blur. But the reminder of the message loomed larger than ever, and the shadow of something far worse loitered just outside the periphery. I'm scared, Caleb, I admitted, my voice barely a whisper against the rising hubbub of Emily's distracted prattle nearby. I'm scared of what this person could do. What they already might be doing if they knew we were onto them. Emily fidgeted, her words still not landing as she bore witness to the silent battle between us, and I could see it in Caleb's eyes, a flicker of something I dared to hope was understanding. What do you mean watching us? There's something more. Aren't you going to elaborate? Caleb searched my gaze, and for an instant, the world around us became a blur of color and sound. But then I faltered. The weight of being the bearer of this terrible truth anchored me in the moment, wrestling with the consequences of my next words. To reveal everything, to pull him deeper into this web of secrecy and danger, could fracture the fragile balance we were struggling to maintain. Just tell me, he pressed, breaking the hold of silence with desperate urgency. Don't you trust me? Please don't do this. That I swallowed hard, admiration and fear intertwining within me. I could see Emily shifting uncomfortably, her gaze flickering between us. The murmur of their indifference to our plight cut deeper than I expected, and I knew this wasn't just about me or Caleb. This was an unfolding tapestry of danger, of shadows and secrets, and I was terrified of what would come next. In that moment of indecision, a woman burst onto the scene, disheveled, breathless, as if she had run a marathon just to reach us. Her eyes darted nervously around as she took a step closer. "Caleb. You need to listen." She pointed to the distant tree line, her voice quivering with urgency. "There's someone out there. I saw them watching." Caleb's gaze shifted from me to her, and I felt the air grow heavy with the howling storm darkening our conversation. Now it wasn't just my truth that needed to be uncovered, it was something more sinister that loomed in the shadows of our world, threatening to yank us away from the solace we sought. "Wait, what? Who? How do you know?" His relief, tinged with dread, shook loose the steadiness he had clung to, and I could only picture his mind racing through the possibilities. The woman shifted uneasily, the tension causing her voice to crack. "I don't know why they're here, but I saw them take photos. Photos of you, of all of us." Her finish hung thick in the air, a weight that suffocated the awkward banter Emily seemed to cling to. Photos? My heart sank, the troubling image coiling into my mind as if the winds of fate were forcing me to reckon with the gravity of our situation. I turned back to Caleb, desperation clawing at my throat. "We have to figure out what's really happening." That he nodded, fear flickering in his eyes. "But what does this mean for us?" "Right now, it means we need to keep quiet and stay together," I urged. "No one can. No. We can't put ourselves at risk while trying to understand why this is happening." Emily, who had finally fallen silent, stared at us in disbelief, her facade crumbling under the weight of unforeseen reality. "What are you talking about?" "You're being dramatic," but the urgency in Caleb's eyes rendered her comment trivial. "Emily, this is bigger than every party we've ever been to. We need to act, not pretend everything's fine." The tension swelled as uncertainty threatened to divide us further. I glanced back at the woman, still jittery with anxiety, and felt a flicker of fear within myself because now the stakes were climbing higher. We were no longer just caught in a web of emotional confusion, we were entangled in something darker, something insidious that lingered in the shadows like a serpent watching its prey. Before I could voice my thoughts, I caught another flicker out of the corner of my eye, a movement beyond the blurry tree line, followed by a burst of laughter that echoed disturbingly. My breath caught as dread wrapped itself around my heart. "This couldn't be happening, Caleb, they're still out there," I whispered, taking a step closer, feeling the emotional chasm between us threatening to widen once more. "I think they know we're onto them." Just as panic surged in his eyes and the reality of our surveillance settled heavier into the air, I realized we had entered a space from which there might be no turning back. Whatever path lay ahead promised to fracture our world even more. In a split second, another sound, a harsh rustle followed by a snap, came from the tree line, and a figure emerged into the light, cloaked and shadowy. My heartbeat thundered in my ears as recognition crashed over me like a tidal wave. My worst nightmare had just manifested in front of us, and I knew, deep down, that our fates were about to intertwine in a way I could have never imagined. The figure stepped forward, shrouded in mystery, a dark silhouette that seemed to blossom from the shadows. I felt Caleb's body tense beside me as he instinctively moved closer, almost as if to shield me from the unknown. The chaotic backdrop of laughter and music receded into nothingness, leaving only the fragile tether of our connection and the pulse of fear thrumming between us. "Who are you?" Caleb's voice cut through the silence, surprisingly steady despite the turmoil brewing beneath the surface. The woman who had interrupted us remained frozen, eyes wide and desperate, like a deer caught in the headlights. The figure halted, and for the first time, I saw a flash of recognition spark in their eyes. A sense of shared history glazed the air between us, fogging my thoughts as I searched my memory for the name attached to that face which hovered just beyond the threshold of familiarity. "It doesn't matter who I am," they said, the voice low and smooth, laden with something I couldn't quite place. "What matters is why I'm here." "Then tell us why." The urgency in my tone startled even me, igniting an adrenaline rush that coursed through my veins. "Are you the one taking pictures?" What do you want from us? Not from you about you. The figure stepped into the dim light cast by the festivities, and in that moment, I recognized them, someone from our past, a name I had tucked away, enveloped in old tales that had grown dusty with time. My name is Alex. And I warned you to be careful. Alex's otherness sent a ripple of confusion through me. You knew us? I'm not the one you should be worried about, they said, gesturing toward the tree lean where the sense of danger lingered. You need to leave before it's too late. That I don't understand, Caleb interjected, voice low and trembling. The tension sharpened as we braced ourselves against the quickening storm of revelation. Listen. Alex urged, their gaze shifting back toward the shadows. There is someone out there who has been watching you for much longer than you can imagine. You're all pawns in a game you don't even know you're playing. An unsettling chill crawled across my skin, slicing through the facade of safety this party had provided. What game? And why us? The unanswered questions swirled viciously, seeking to unearth a truth that knotted my insides with uncertainty and dread. Do you think we have time for riddles? I asked, my voice sharp in the silence. What exactly should we be afraid of? The heart of it is more complex. Alex hesitated, looking over their shoulder once more, a quick, guilty glance that sent a fresh wave of anxiety rippling through me. There's a secret one that could destroy everything if unleashed. A silence enveloped us, thick with confusion as Emily finally broke free from her stunned stupor. This is nonsense. You're just here to cause more chaos, she scoffed, though the tremor in her voice betrayed her fear. You can't just show up and make accusations. Ignoring her, Alex pressed on, if you want to know the truth, you have to come with me. Now. Before it's too late, Caleb's hand tightened against mine, and for a moment, the world felt impossibly heavy, each heartbeat resonating like a ticking clock. A riptide of suspicion dragged me under. Could we trust this figure from our past? Was there merit to the urgency they presented, or was it merely another layer of deception, another distortion in our already chaotic lives? What do you mean by before it's too late? My heart seized, the realization of what was at stake tightening its grip. Because if you stay here, you're exposing yourselves to an imminent threat, Alex replied, their urgency morphing into sincere desperation. They already know you're aware. They've begun making their next move, and if they reach you first, the darkness that washed over us was palpable. I shook my head, grappling with the avalanche of emotions that swept through the group. But we can't just leave. We don't know if we can trust you. What kind of action do you want us to take? That's not for you to decide, they shot back, their voice strained. You have to trust me, or you'll regret it. I promise I didn't come here unprepared. Just then, a distant scream split through the air, shattering the moment. Hearts raced as we all turned to face the direction of the noise, a low rumble of fear echoing amidst the revelers. In mere seconds, chaos erupted, guests began scrambling, laughter turning to shouts of confusion and disbelief. Stay close, Caleb urged, pulling me tighter against him, his protective instinct surging forward. No matter what happens, we stick together. Come on. We have to move, now. Alex insisted, glancing back at the chaos spilling into the clearing. As Emily's hands trembled by her sides, I caught her eyes, a momentary flicker of understanding passing between us. She might not trust Alex, but we had no time for second-guessing. Without another word, we stumbled after Caleb and Alex, our hearts pounding a frantic rhythm, running into the unknown with the specter of danger trailing closely behind. As we broke through the crowd, I glanced back, and the face of the cloaked figure I'd seen earlier appeared again, lurking just beyond the trees, a haunting reminder that we were mere players in a much larger game. Just as I turned to run, I saw them raise a camera, aimed directly at us, and I knew with a gut-wrenching certainty that every move we made from this point on would be crucial. We were no longer just living moment to moment, we were racing against time itself, caught in a tightrope act that could unravel our lives at any second. And just as my breath caught in my throat, a familiar, chilling laugh echoed through the trees, a sound that sent icy tendrils of dread wrapping around my spine, twisting the knife deeper. The thick foliage of the forest swallowed the festive lights behind us, the pulsating music fading into a haunting echo of what had once felt like safety. Caleb's grip on my hand was a lifeline, yet with every hurried step we took, dread clawed at my insidious growing realization that innocence was a luxury we could no longer afford. Alex led the way, darting through branches and undergrowth, eyes darting in every direction, as though the shadows themselves were nipping at our heels. "Why did you come back now?" I gasped, finally unable to rein in my swirling thoughts. After all this time, Alex glanced back, their expression a mixture of regret and urgency. "You have to understand, it was never safe. Neither of you ever knew what was truly going on. I had to come back before it was too late." They tugged us forward, pushing through a thicket with newfound strength. "But now it's worse than I ever imagined, worse than." Caleb's voice cracked, his confusion evident. "What could be worse than whatever this is?" As we broke into a small clearing, the light of the moon filtered down, and for a split second, it felt peaceful. The tension ebbed just briefly, but the quiet was deceptive. There was no reprieve as we halted, the sudden silence weighing heavily upon us. "They've infiltrated every corner of the town." Alex's voice was quiet but laced with urgency, and I felt the echoes of the night vibrate in the stillness. "They're watching you. Every moment, every interaction. They've set their sights on you too specifically." My heart raced at the implication. "Why us? What do they want from us?" "It's not just about you," Alex replied, their gaze distant as if recalling a memory that was far too painful to relive. "It's about your families, your history. There are secrets buried deep in what you think you know, and unleashing those truths could determine the fate of us all." Just as I began to process their words, a familiar warmth brushed against the side of my hand, a fleeting touch that sparked an unexpected surge of hope. I glanced down to see Emily, her anxiety visible but determination brewing behind her eyes. "I don't know what's happening, but we can't let them win," she asserted, her voice strong, bridging the divide of fear that loomed like a chasm between us. "Hadn't you been trying to get away from this?" I echoed, realizing the irony of her commitment to stay. "We're risking everything by staying. I've been following what I was told, not knowing much of anything," she replied, her voice low. "But I won't run anymore. I won't let them pull the strings without a fight." At that moment, a flicker of light caught my eye from beyond the trees, a soft shimmering glow that pulsed rhythmically. It was barely perceptible, but it drew me in, stoked a hidden curiosity and a longing to grasp what lay out of reach. It felt like a beacon calling me forward. "Wait," I said, pulling away from the group. "What is that?" Alex stepped in front of me, blocking my path. "No. You can't go towards that light. It's a trap." But the whisper of intrigue intoxicated me, and as curiosity spiraled into action, I pushed past Alex, my heart racing with anticipation and fear. The silhouettes of trees began to twist around me, consumed by darkness as the path drew closer to that spectral glow. Caleb's voice broke through the haze, desperate. "Stop. We need you here. Don't go alone." In that instant, the world twisted, and I realized I was surrounded. Figures emerged from the shadows, cloaked in the same darkness that felt like an extension of the very night. Their presence loomed with an unnatural power, the same haunting laughter crashing against my ears as they stepped closer. Suddenly, the figure from before the one with the camera materialized before me, their face shrouded in dark fabric, eyes cold and calculating. "You shouldn't have come here. But now that you are." They raised the camera, fixing it on me. "Run!" Caleb shouted, the urgency in his voice rattling through me as adrenaline surged. I turned almost instinctively, but it wasn't just fear that propelled me, it was the realization of betrayal, of a history I hadn't chosen but was inescapably tied to. As I stumbled back toward the others, the world shifted again. Alex shouted warnings, but the laughter of the figure echoed once more, twisting through the air like a dark melody that promised our undoing. Just as I thought I was safe, branches shattered in the night, and I collided with something solid and unseen. My breath hitched at the jarring impact, and the world before me dimmed in a cascade of shifting shadows. The moment stretched as I faced a wall of darkness that threatened to swallow me whole. Struggling against an unseen force, I felt the cool bite of a metal object grazing my throat, emotions crashing over me in waves, and as panic surged through my veins, an epiphany struck me with a seismic force. Beneath the fear, under the looming threat, the history Alex had hinted at began to warp in my mind. One name reverberated through my thoughts, the name of a person I trusted most. In the sudden stillness, I realized the truth I had been evading all along could tear apart everything I held dear. I was poised at the edge of a revelation that would change the course of all our lives forever. Caleb! I screamed, but the darkness was thickening, and I felt myself slipping away. As my vision narrowed, the figure stepped closer, that chilling laugh still echoing around us, and just before everything faded into black, the haunting words rang in my ears, "The game has only just begun." The world around me came alive in a cacophony of terror and despair. The laughter faded into an unsettling silence, leaving an empty void where hope once resided. As I blinked against the encroaching darkness, a bright flash ignited within me, a desire to break free, to scream, to fight against this insidious power that threatened to unravel everything I loved. Just as the shadows threatened to merge with my consciousness, I felt a warm hand grasp mine, steady and resolute. Caleb's familiar presence squeezed like a lifeline, pulling me from the murky depths. "I've got you," he said, unyielding as he yanked me back into the world's stuttering reality. The metal edge against my throat receded, replaced by the sticky grip of tendrils of shadow slipping away. "Run!" Alex's voice pierced through the fog of confusion as they dashed forward, pulling us along. The fear in their eyes was palpable, blending seamlessly with my own. Each breath felt like a betrayal of the moment, the normalcy of life burning away, leaving only wisps of memories that felt carved from another life. That we sprinted further into the forest, the wind whipping against my face, carrying with it a wild desperation. But as the trees blurred past, doubt gnawed at me. How could we outrun something so insidious, something that had burrowed deep into our roots? They were in every crack of the town, every breath of history that bound us together. The very air felt charged with their presence, waiting, watching. "What do we do now?" Emily gasped, lagging slightly behind as we stumbled upon a natural enclave. Its jagged rocks provided a momentary shelter from the looming shadows, yet safety felt like an illusion that shifted like mist. "There has to be a way to disrupt their hold," Alex said, scanning the heavy darkness around us. "But we need to find the source of their power. We have to return to where it all began." "The old library," I interrupted, the words spilling out before I could cage them in. "My mom always told me stories about what was hidden there, things that were meant to stay buried." "That's it," Caleb breathed, a hint of an unyielding determination threading through his voice. "If we can learn what really happened, we might understand how to fight back." A fresh wave of courage coursed through me, if only quietly, as I glanced at my friends. Each face held a myriad of emotions: fear, bravery, uncertainty, hope. We were more than just souls running from shadows, we were pieces of a bigger puzzle, and now it felt urgent to unlock its mysteries before our lives unraveled completely. As we moved, echoes of the past filtered through my mind, swirling memories of laughter over stories told by the fire. But those memories were quickly replaced with sharp images of betrayal and secrecy. What had my mom hidden? What truths about our families lingered in the forgotten stories of the library? Each thought cut deeper than the last, settling into a turmoil that churned in my gut. As we reached the library, a structure worn and battered by time but still standing in defiance, I glanced over at Emily. "Promise me, if we find something that could hurt us, or we don't want to hear, you'll talk to me first." "No secrets," she nodded, and I could see the weight of our shared history reflected in her eyes. It wasn't just about facing the darkness, we were preparing to confront everything we had known and how it could irrevocably alter the paths laid out before us. The doors to the library creaked open with a reluctant sigh, and a wave of stale air enveloped us. Dust motes danced in the dim light filtering through broken windows, illuminating rows of ancient books and forgotten lore. We moved cautiously, each step meeting the cautious thrum of our hearts. "Look for anything that might be a clue," Alex instructed, their voice barely above a whisper, as we fanned out. The floor creaked and groaned underfoot, amplifying the tension that felt like a palpable force. As I rifled through the pages of brittle, yellowed books, snippets of conversation ignited hazy recollections, land disputes, familial ties entwined with the towns. Dark past, tales of alliances formed and broken. I began piecing together fragments of a story that underpinned our existence, then, like a whisper threading through the fabric of silence, a soft rustling reached my ears. My heart quickened as I turned, eyes catching a shadow flitting between the shelves. It vanished just as quickly, leaving only the aftermath of its presence. My breath caught as I caught Caleb's gaze across the room, his brow furrowed as he was lost in thought. "Did you see that?" I murmured, my voice slicing through the quiet. He lifted a finger to his lips, signaling me to stay quiet. The tension twisted around us as we drew closer, hearts hammering in unity. Suddenly, the unmistakable echo of footsteps shattered the stillness, closing in fast. "They're here," Emily hissed, panic etched across her features. "Hide," Alex commanded, ducking behind a large stack of books. Dread shaped the air, and as I searched for refuge, a forgotten truth hit me like a wave. This place, this library, was not just a repository of knowledge, it was a sanctuary that held more than just our stories, it held the paths of our destinies. Just then, the footsteps stopped, silence hung heavy as if the shadows were breathing with us, preparing for a confrontation that loomed ahead. It was a stillness pregnant with revelation, with emotions that need to be unraveled. In those fleeting moments, just before the chaos erupted, I realized something even more profound. There were forces at play here that were beyond us. Secrets bound by blood and choice would soon be thrust into the light, revealing a web that entwined not only my life, but the lives of everyone I'd ever held dear. One truth burned vivid and fierce in my mind. Mindy had stepped into a darkness that would change everything, and an unshakable thought gripped me: we may have unleashed a battle we weren't even prepared to fight. The tension in the library thickened as I pressed myself against the cool wall, trying to figuratively melt into the shadows. It felt like the very air had turned into a living entity, pregnant with suspense, and the hairs on my arms stood up in response to an unnameable dread that crawled along my skin. The footsteps, once distant, were now near enough to rattle the shelves. "Caleb, what do we do?" I whispered, my voice trembling. Time seemed to stretch, each heartbeat a sledgehammer in my chest, drowning out all other sounds. I could see the determination lining his jaw, but the fear flickering in his eyes dimmed that light. "We wait," he mouthed, and we exchanged a silent agreement born from shared desperation. As we huddled in silence, the shadows deepened around us, gaining substance as they writhed closer to the light. Emily clenched my hand tighter, her pulse racing against my palm, and I could sense her fighting against the suffocating hold of fear. It reminded me of the moments before a storm's fury, quiet, and yet charged enough to detonate at any moment. Then, without warning, the whisper of a voice slithered through the air. "You shouldn't be here," it hissed like a serpent awakening from slumber. The voice was low, drenched in both menace and sorrow. It was impossible to tell where it originated, but the familiarity of it clawed at the edges of my mind. "Who are you?" Alex's voice broke the stillness, shaky yet defiant. The sound reverberated through the library like the crack of lightning, illuminating our hiding spot for what felt like an eternity. A figure emerged from the depths of shadows, a woman cloaked in darkness, her features obscured. Yet something about her felt achingly familiar, like a relic from dreams best left untouched. The shadows cloaked her, twisting and curling in ways that were almost hypnotic, and I couldn't shake the sensation that we were staring at someone significant, someone entwined within our haunted past. "I am the keeper of what was lost," she said, her voice melodic yet punctuated with creeping unease. "And you, children, are bound to this fate." "Bound to what?" I asked instinctively, more feeling than thinking, as hope began to battle against despair. My voice broke slightly, a tremor of uncertainty curling around my words. "The shadows," she replied, and her smile held no warmth, only the chill of 1,000 winter nights. "Your bloodlines are intertwined with these forces. To understand your history is to confront the truth that has evaded you, the secrets that lie entwined with your families." "Enough games," Caleb shouted, his spirit ignited by defiance. "Tell us what we need to do." "We need to protect our home, our lives." The woman's gaze locked onto his, measuring his commitment against something unseen, and for a moment, the weight of her understanding bore down on us like an avalanche. "Very well," she sighed, surrendering to inevitability. "You must seek the author of the stories, the one who knows the origins of the darkness that suffocates this town," but they're gone, I realized, the words falling from my lips before my mind could sift through the implications. The author of those tales, the one who had woven our collective destinies together, was meant to be a forgotten specter, lost to time and memory. "Not all is lost," she whispered, her voice dropping to a whisper so soft it barely registered. "Seek the one beneath the willow, the guardian of your truths. Every secret bears a cost, but to wield knowledge is to become the architect of your fate." Then, in an instant, she seemed to dissolve into the shadows. Fear nabbed at my chest as I looked at my friends. It was as if the very heartbeat of the library had quickened in her absence, raw silence taking hold of the space that had recently pulsed with the whispers of fate. "That we need to leave," Alex urged, and as we slipped from our hiding spots, something an unexplainable sense of urgency pushed us forward. The weight of the woman's words spiraled in my mind, a torrent of possibility and dread. We rushed through the dimly lit aisles, past forgotten tomes and relics. Desperation propelling us. A cloistered truth clung to my thoughts: the willow tree, the site of grief, of solace, of histories entwined, beckoned to us in ways I could scarcely begin to comprehend. As we stepped into the cool night, the forest stretched before us, branches cradling the soft glow of the moonlight. My heart thumped heavy in my chest, each beat resonating with a new sense of purpose. But between the fragile threads of hope, shadows still lurked, waiting to entangle us once again. And then the ground trembled beneath us, roots twisting with life, and a low groan echoed through the night, a sign that something wicked stirred beneath the surface of our reality. "What was that?" Emily gasped, her eyes wide, heart racing. "I don't know," I breathed, feeling dread course through me. But before I could finish, the earth erupted open at our feet, a gaping maw of darkness opening wide, revealing a secret that was meant to be hidden. "Get back!" Caleb cried, but I was frozen, my mind spiraling into the chaos brewing before us. The shadows slipped past the edges of consciousness, creeping closer with a tenacity that felt all too familiar, and then, from the depths of the chasm, an arm reached out, fingers thin and spectral, pulling something much more than mere darkness towards us. A figure emerged, its face shrouded in obscurity, and as it stepped fully into the world above, disbelief swept through me like a thunderclap. Time held its breath as I initiated recognition, and the shadows behind it seemed to twist into frantic knots, curling tighter around everything we held dear. The threads of our past, the fears of our present, and the potential of our future had all collided, and I feared it had done so to unveil a truth that would fundamentally alter my life forever. The figure emerged with an air of gravity, and recognition struck me like a lightning bolt. My heart thundered in my chest, a wild symphony of confusion and terror. "No," I whispered, the sound barely escaping my lips. Every part of me wanted to retreat, to hide from the truth that this figure represented. It was someone I had once known intimately, a part of my history that I had long buried away, while simultaneously craving closure. "I thought you were gone," I managed, stepping back instinctively. It was my father. The very shadow of him seemed a contradiction to his essence. The man who had once held the title of protector was now a harbinger of uncertainty. I remembered the stories, the whispered warnings about the past, the darkness that had chased us. Her voice echoed in my mind, "The guardian of your truths." Was he the architect of our fate? "Fate has a way of bringing us back to where we belong," he said, his gaze searching mine, attempting to pierce through the layers of fear and resentment. The shadows around him shifted, as if alive, recalling moments we shared, a haunting dance between love and loss. But I felt no warmth rising from him, I only felt the cold hands of betrayal pulling me back. "What do you want?" I asked harshly. "You were supposed to protect us from all this." He flinched, pain flickering across his face, and yet he pressed forward. "I've worked in the shadows for too long. It's time to unveil the secrets once and for all. There's so much at stake, and I can't let any of you fall victim again." Caleb gripped my hand tighter, grounding me in that moment. "What happened back then? What secrets are you hiding?" His voice was fierce, fueled by determination, and I could see the flicker of pain in his eyes as he spoke. My father took a breath that mirrored the weight of ages. Years ago, before you were born, there was a pact, a promise. To hide from forces beyond our control, we buried the truth that could unravel everything, but those truths are now clawing to the surface. With every word, I could feel the ground beneath us tremble, a sinister reminder that choices echo through time like ripples in water. A pact? Emily echoed, her voice laced with incredulity. You mean to say all of this, the shadows, the darknesses, because of a choice you made? He nodded solemnly, brushing his hand through the air as if trying to disperse the shadows weighing down the moment. It was a decision made when I was desperate, and I thought it would protect you all. But the reckoning has come, and I am here to help you face a battle against what was cast away. Suddenly, the fluttering rustle of branches drew our attention, and my heart leaped into my throat as I caught sight of hooded figures lurking at the edges of the clearing, stillness cloaking their forms like a veil. Shadows hungrily flickering around them reminded me that where there was light, darkness could not be too far away. It's too late to hide from the past, my father said urgently, breaking through my spiral of doubts. But together, we can turn the tide. You have the strength to rewrite the story, to reclaim the light. With a steely resolve, I straightened, absorbing the weight of his words. Did we truly have a chance to confront this darkness, to rewrite our history? A pulse of energy surged through me at the thought maybe it wasn't too late. Caleb's grip tightened around my hand, and I saw the flicker of hope alight in his eyes as he glanced at Emily and Alex. What do we need to do? He asked, determination weaving through his tone. Where do we begin? In the library there lies a hidden compartment, my father replied, urgency creeping into his voice. It's where the true story of our families is documented, along with the key to dispelling the shadows. Then that's where we'll go, I declared, empowered by the gravity of the moment, revitalized with a purpose that surged inside me, an unyielding determination to unravel the threads of our past and confront the darkness head-on. As we turned to retrace our steps towards the library, a cacophony of sounds erupted, the guttural laughter of the cloaked figures calling from the shadows, a sharp reminder that danger pursued relentlessly. Yet, with every step we took together, a flicker of light ignited, illuminating the truth that had long been veiled in darkness. Arriving back at the library, the atmosphere thick with tension, we rushed inside. The unexpected urgency sharpened by my father's presence felt as if the air crackled heavily, the charged energy demanding our attention. I could almost hear the echoes of ancient whispers woven deep in its walls. Over here, Alex urged, moving toward a well-worn bookshelf. We quickly fumbled past titles cloaked in dust, my fingers brushing against faded titles, longing to plunge into the depth of words that had long held our futures in suspension. There, carved in meticulous detail well hidden among the shelf, was a latch that seemed to pulse with forgotten power. I pulled it open, revealing an alcove cloaked in darkness. Inside lay bound manuscripts and roll after roll of parchment. They felt ancient yet alive, like delicate threads flexing towards a tapestry of truth. The moment I cautiously reached out, I could feel an energy radiate from the pages, a strange prickle against my skin that sent electric shivers down my spine. Read, my father urged, his voice thick with emotion. This is only the beginning of reclaiming what's yours. As I carefully unrolled the first parchment, tremors coursed through me as I began to decipher the words, secrets, ties, truths that linked our families to the shadows we had been escaping. I could feel history rush through my veins, the struggles, the anguish, the sacrifices, and how we had all danced on the edge of light and darkness. But as the histories unfolded, one name resonated louder than the rest, beating against my heart like a war drum, the one who had orchestrated the binding pact, a dark reflection of who I was destined to confront. Your family has always belonged in the light. My father's voice trembled as he read the names, as if sensing the existence of burdens long clouded by despair. Together, you'll reclaim what was lost, and it starts now. The air shifted again. A loud crash echoed from outside the library, and just like that, chaos engulfed our space. They were here. We need to backtrack to the entrance, Caleb urged, dragging me toward the door. No matter what it takes, we stand together, taking each other's hands tightly. Emily, Alex, Caleb, and I braced ourselves for the imminent confrontation with the darkness, determined to hold us captive once more, but this time, we had the light within us, the push of history and fate pulsing as one, the courage infused in our souls ignited by the truth. As we stepped out from the sanctuary of the library, the shadows danced and recoiled, and though panic swelled in my chest, the revelations we had gathered anchored me against the tide. Defiance surged through my veins as we stepped forward together, determined to reclaim not just our story, but to seize control of our own destinies, and as shadows collided around us, rifles embraced, I whispered quietly yet fiercely, taking a step toward the rift ahead, we write our ending now. What unfolded before us would be a climactic clash where shadows met light, and the bonds we held would either shatter or grow stronger. We were ready to face whatever darkness lay ahead, but even in the heart of chaos, with the battle raging around us, one truth ignited within me: whatever happened next, we would emerge from this as rewritten souls, stronger, united, ready to take on the world, and that was our beginning.